Hello, hello, friends. Happy Friday. All right. Let me get myself together. I just bought this microphone and all the cords. Um, just want to make sure I have all my notes and everything. All right. So, welcome to another Coffee with Dari live. Today, we're going to talk about brand strategy. And I was actually gonna not talk about this for a little bit, but I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about it now. So we will. Um, The reason why I wanted to talk about brand strategy is because myself and my business, Black and Ab, the agency, we're going through a transition where we are starting to help clients with brand strategy. And why? Well, over the past 15 years, I've been heavily involved in social media strategy, social media marketing, and we notice that when a lot of companies come to us, we end up working on brand strategy elements anyway. So getting the visuals to a certain place, getting the brand colors together. They might already have colors, but maybe they're not integrating them into their visual designs, establishing a look and feel or a format. So we end up working on these elements anyway. And I'd love to just help people get their brand strategy together from the beginning. So when I say brand strategy, in the conversations that I've been having recently, a lot of people go straight to branding. And branding is a part of brand strategy, but it's not the whole picture. So when I'm talking about brand strategy, um, the way that I like to think about it or explain it, it's that it's branding is part of it, but it's the strategy is an even bigger picture, right? It's that your brand strategy is going to inform and direct basically all the choices that you make in a brand or business, and it helps build your brand's equity. And that's important because brand strategy is going to help you differentiate yourself from others in your industry. It's going to help you communicate your value to your customers, which therefore attracts the right people to you and of course converts them even quicker into customers and ensures consistency across your messaging, your visuals, just in general. And also, the most important part for me is that it brings clarity to help you streamline and prioritize your marketing efforts. So you'll know what to work on before you pull that lever and you're ready to launch and go through with it. If you want to think about good brand strategy, I mean, there's the classic brands, right? Like Coca-Cola or McDonald's that you can think of right away. Um, they're pretty consistent about the way they look, how they talk to their customers. They know who their customers are. So having all those elements just really brings so much clarity into what you're going to do. There's no guessing. There's no, what are we doing today? What are we doing tomorrow? How does this work? No, you've already thought about all those things. You have a timeline. You can give yourself the mental space to let the strategy work, which is also huge because sometimes we start doing something new, put together a new strategy, try a new tactic, and you get a little impatient, right? You might be like, oh, but I've been trying this for a week and it's not working. Time to change. No. When you have the brand strategy, you just stick to the plan and you give it time to work out. Um, so what encompasses a brand strategy? So I'm going to rattle off a few things, but when I talk about brand strategy and the elements that we work on when that comes in is first of all your purpose. What is the purpose of your brand? How are you helping people? What is your mission? What is your brand story? Why are you so passionate about your brand? What will your brand or business or product, service, thought leadership, what will that help do for people? It also encompasses your brand values, your voice and your tone. And all these things again are important, brings consistency. And when I work with thought leaders and influencers, uh, that brand value piece is so important because that helps narrow down like who you decide to partner with, what brands you actually want to do deals with. It just very easily. If it doesn't line up, not for you. Um, what else? I would go even further. So I'm going to go further and say even customer journeys. If there's a product-based business, thinking about how you want the customer to feel, how many interactions you're going to have with them. We can get so granular into all the things that encompass, but I like to include that one in because some of our clients as thought leaders have freebies and other ways to funnel people into their world. So that just came to mind as I was talking. But back to my list that I have here in front of me, it also encompasses your audience, really honing in on who you're talking to, what they care about, why they would choose you, just really getting to know them, who you're talking to, who you need to be targeting. And then, of course, visual identity, which we know is very important, especially in the world of that we live in now with digital marketing and all the content that we're putting out there. Having a visual identity is really important. And I don't think it always has to be like, for example, my if you go on my Instagram, my images all have a very specific tone. I've had people tell me, I know it's your post because of the style. Right, and it doesn't necessarily even have to have, like, the filter that I use on them, but even just my style of photography and how I take my images, how I do my videos. So just coming out with something that makes it feel very much like you, and I was actually thinking about this the other day because I was looking through a couple of big influencer accounts, and what I noticed is, of course, I'm, like, scrolling back past when they did what they were doing. Um, one was a fashion influencer and she had like a it was always against a solid white wall and she would do her outfit changes. But before that, it didn't look that way. And what I noticed is that everyone kind of tries different things until they find the thing that sticks. So having that visual identity is really important, especially now. So typically when I work with a client, and they come to me and they need brand strategy, or even if they just need social anything, we go through a complete audit so we know where our client stands when it comes to all these elements. And there's several more. These are just like the ones that are sticking out. There's like brand sentiment and all these other things that we look at. So that we know which elements we need to work on first or what we can prioritize so that we can figure out what needs to be worked on now, if there's anything we can work on simultaneously, and really just getting all our ducks in a row before we launch anything or go about that. So, what I love about brand strategy is that it really makes you get into the details of the changes and the little tweaks that you need to make to either scale something and actually make it go bigger or that you might be missing. And I always see my position when I work with a client is like holding that big vision for you so that you can work on these details and but we don't lose sight of what the big vision is because we can get caught up in details and worry about what am I posting now? What video should I create? Well, refer back to your brand strategy and you don't have to think about it. That's what I love about brand strategy. It really, really clarifies things, simplifies things. If you're here from my post yesterday, my client went from like not making any sales to consistently selling every time she posted, or at least getting interest and getting people to talk to her. And it was just very small tweaks that we made to the way that she was expressing herself, to the kind of content that she was putting out. But it all started with, again, figuring out that brand strategy. What are the big goals? What do we need to do? How do we present ourselves? And who are we talking to? So if I had to pick, if you came up to me today and say, hey, I'm ready to work on my brand strategy, but what are the things I need to focus on first? For me, there are a ton of components that go into it, but if I were to narrow down what to work on or what to look at, I would start with first and foremost your audience. Who are they? Where are they? Right? Second is your brand story and messaging. So figuring out what really makes you stand out from the next person who's doing the same thing you are. And more of like a product-based business just would need something like that. But if I'm talking to a thought leader or an influencer, yeah, there's a million fashion influencers, but what's going to make you different is it's always going to be the way that you present yourself. That can be enough. There's a ton of people who do social media strategy, brand strategy. But the way that I explain something might land for you, whereas the way someone else explains it or they present it, maybe doesn't land. Maybe that person annoys you. I don't know. But everyone, there's enough for everyone, and you will find your audience and those people that convert and they work with you by being yourself. But you also have to think about it. You also have to look around and say, what actually makes me different than everyone else? Sometimes it's just so that we know. But if you have, like I said, a product-based business or a service-based business, you do need to work a little bit harder to figure that out. And trust me, I've been there and it's not the most sexy and it's not the most fun. But doing the unsexy, boring stuff, all these things that just seem very daunting, um, that's what's really going to make the difference for you. That's what's going to help you make those little tweaks that can take you from, let's say, zero engagement to lots of people engaging with you. And you have to be able to experiment as well. Okay, so I just went over getting your brand story, your audience, and messaging. And then number three is my most important one. What is the plan for how you are going to reach your audience? Those are the three components of a good brand strategy for me. So I got through this a little more quickly than I thought, but you know that I don't like to fluff and have you waste your time here. We get straight to the point. So I see some questions are coming in. Uh, Benny, great topic. One important to me at the moment. How do the vision and mission statement impact the brand strategy? What do you need to have first? So let me take my time to answer this one. The mission statement, your vision and the mission statement. I mean, that's why you started the brand. I think that's super important to hash out because you have to be able to communicate that vision efficiently to the people that you want to attract to you. And sometimes we're not super clear on that. Or, I want to help people, but what about what you do specifically helps people? Or, um, Benny, I'm familiar with you, so I know that you have the stoic lifestyle, and there's so many benefits to that, right? So, but what makes you different? What are you bringing to the table? So, it's important to have your mission and vision clear to you so that when you have all those other components that we just talked about, when you figure out who your audience is, when you figure out where they are and how you're going to reach them, you can clearly communicate to them what your vision and mission is because they have to believe it. They have to believe it. You're going to believe it the most, but they also have to believe it probably just as much or more as you do if you want them to listen to you, be down with what you have to say, purchase your products, listen to your podcasts, whatever it is that you're doing. So I would get that clear first. And a lot of the stuff that I end up doing with clients feels like more energy work, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's going through our own mental blocks. Sometimes it's pulling more and more out of what you think. Sometimes if we think, oh yeah, we have this figured out, but there's actually so many more layers that we can dive into. And it's not always, like I mentioned earlier, it's not always a fun process. It's not. It's just I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. It's not always the most fun process, but once you start sometimes you have to step away and come back. So you have to give yourself the time to think about it, step away from it, come back. Does it make sense? Can I pull more out of myself? Right? And sometimes that's why we need an outside person to kind of pull those strings and help you figure that out. Maybe it's you have a specific framework. Um, and that's one that, again, many people can teach you about stoicism. How does Benny teach it? That's different. What's your framework? How do you work with people? That's different. And then you also ask, what are the biggest obstacles for brand strategy? Where can I go wrong? This is such a good question. I feel like a lot of the obstacles come from wanting to get things out there. right? Like we need to make money now. I need customers now. Totally get it. We all do. But if you just start putting things out there without a thought, just because you need customers, just because you need views, I think that gets in our way. And of course, we need to pay bills. We need to get our businesses going. So I say you give yourself a time frame to get it done, and then you do it within that time. And that's why again, I love working with businesses to figure out what that strategy is and what that timeline looks like, because it might take you a little longer. We might have to say, okay, how do we reorganize your team or reorganize the tasks that everyone's getting to make this run more smoothly so that you can have this done by X time? Where else can you go wrong? There's so many, I don't want to say there's so many places that you can go wrong. Sometimes you don't know what's going to go wrong and so you start doing things, and I think that's another important thing to talk about, is that your brand strategy can shift, and that's okay. One that came to mind when it came to that was Wayfair. They changed their slogan from Wayfair, you got just what I need, to Wayfair, every style, every home. And now it feels more specific, right? Because Wayfair is where you go for furniture or home goods, things like that. And they have a bunch of other stuff as well. But if their main mission was to target people who are redecorating their home, that's a way to narrow down the message. It's like, okay, we do have everything for everyone, but how do we boil that down? How do we narrow that down? So sometimes you don't know that things won't work until you put them in play, which can be frustrating, but it's better to put something in play and then be able to recognize, oh, that's not working, and then shift it. And I think I needed to add that to my list, is that you do need to, another important part of a brand strategy is to give yourself check ins and figure out where, what you're keeping track of in order to say this is successful, we are hitting this goal. And that's part of something that I work with clients, is not just figuring out like, okay, you need sales, but what are the things in between that you need to figure out before we get to sales. So you do need to build in check-ins, so you can say, all right, does this work? Okay, this video got a ton of views, but did people actually click through? um, what was the response there? So, Benny, sometimes you just have to put a strategy together, let the plan work for a while so you can see if things are actually moving or not, and then make assessments from there and pivot and either keep doing the things that you're doing that worked or quit what doesn't work. Thank you so much for such amazing questions. That was so good. If anyone else has any questions, hop them in and I will answer them for you. If you're watching a replay of this, I can also come back and answer this for you. But okay, I don't, let me check if this, I have any questions anywhere else. Okay, I'm not seeing any more come in. So I hope that was helpful. Um, this is how my client went from zero sales to starting to see sales on their Shopify, having people come into their store and say, I saw this online, or asking them questions, making sales through DMs. Um, it's all about working on that brand strategy. It's, you have to think about what you're doing. You need to figure it out. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not fun. I know it takes time. I know that it feels like you're delaying putting things out there. And if you're familiar with my work, you know I'm all about trying things. And if something's taking you too long because you're trying to get it to be perfect, don't just put it out there. It's better than not putting anything out there. But I'm also very big on intention and using your time intentionally and thinking about what you want to say and really thinking about who it is you're trying to reach, because that's, those little tweaks, those little things is what makes you scale. It's what can take you from zero to a thriving business. It's just assessing, taking a look, making sure that the right things are in place. So I hope that was helpful. Um, if you have any questions ever, just go on and send me a message. We do have some spaces open uh, with Block and Ab to take on some brand strategy clients. So if you're interested in that, you can shoot me an email or a message. This is going out to LinkedIn and Instagram and anyone on my email list. So let me know. I would love to work with you. I really do find joy in figuring out how to bring out the best in people, how to bring out their voice, how to organize all their thoughts. That's another thing. Like, especially if you're a thought leader, CEOs, anyone who wants to be an influencer, anyone who has a large following but like doesn't know what to do with it next. Let's figure it out. I love taking your ideas and being able to like create a timeline and a plan that actually makes sense that you can take on without being overwhelmed, without rushing yourself, without just throwing spaghetti at the wall trying to figure out what works. Um, I'd love to work with you. So, again, hope that was helpful, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Bye.